As Daniel strolls through the tranquil forest, the gentle rustle of leaves surrounds him, creating a serene atmosphere. Suddenly, he hears faint footsteps echoing behind him, causing his heart to race. Confused and a little frightened, Daniel calls out, "Hey, who's there?" hoping for a response. As he continues walking, the footsteps grow louder, intensifying his anxiety. When he turns back again, a shockwave of fear grips him as he suddenly sees a man with a knife glaring at him with fury. In a surge of adrenaline, Daniel bolts for his life, heart pounding in his chest. Reaching his home, Daniel bursts through the door and slams it shut, gasping for breath. With trembling hands, he picks up the phone to call the police, recounting the terrifying encounter. As he describes the man with the knife, a sense of dread washes over him, realizing how close he came to danger. As he walked through the dimly lit alleyway, he heard the muffled sounds of struggle that sent chills down his spine. Peering into the darkness, he saw two men violently attacking an elderly man, making his heart race with fear and anger. Without a second thought, he pulled out his phone and dialed the police, urgency in his voice as he reported the brutal incident. As he spoke to the operator, the two attackers noticed him and turned their gaze, anger flashing into their eyes as they began to pursue him. With adrenaline pumping, he sprinted down the alleyway, dodging debris as he desperately sought refuge in his nearby house. In a dimly lit alley, the tension hangs thick in the air as a man raises his firearm, his resolve unyielding. Without hesitation, he pulls the trigger, the sound echoing off the damp walls, marking a moment of irreversible choice. The bullet finds its mark, and time seems to freeze as the wounded man collapses to the ground, life fading from his eyes. Panic surges through the shooter as he glances around, aware that the silence will soon be shattered by the consequences of his actions. With adrenaline coursing through his veins, he takes one last look at the lifeless body before darting into the darkness, desperately seeking escape. As the man steps into the store, a chill runs down his spine as he realizes something is terribly wrong. He quickly assesses the situation, heart racing, as he hears one of the robbers demand money from the terrified cashier. In an attempt to stay calm, he knows he must act fast before things escalate further. With a surge of adrenaline, he takes a step forward and shouts for the cashier to hand over the money. The cashier, trembling, complies and quickly hands over the cash to the robber who is nearest to him. Suddenly, without warning, one of the robbers pulls the trigger, shooting the cashier in a shocking act of violence. In the dead of night, a solitary man walks home, unaware of the looming danger that awaits him. Suddenly, he feels a sharp pain in his side, the chilling realization dawning that he has been stabbed. 2 days later, police discover his lifeless body, hidden away in a secluded corner of the city. As the investigation unfolds, detectives piece together the events leading to his tragic death. Finally, the police apprehend the suspect, a man with a troubled past linked to violent behavior. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows on the pavement, a man was walking home when he stumbled upon a lifeless body on the roadside. Startled by the grisly discovery, he quickly dialed emergency services, his heart racing with fear and urgency. Within minutes, the sound of sirens pierced the evening air as police and paramedics arrived at the scene. As the officers assessed the situation, one detective approached the man and solemnly informed him that the victim's name was Abule, a man who had been murdered just 2 days prior. As he strolled down the familiar path to his home, a heavy sigh escaped his lips, and he muttered to himself, "Man, I'm getting old for this job." The next day, feeling a surge of newfound clarity, he made the decision to quit his job entirely. With determination in his heart, he walked into his boss's office, ready to deliver the news that would change his life. As he spoke the words, "I ain't working for you no more," a wave of relief washed over him, freeing him from years of dissatisfaction. Stepping out of the office for the last time, he felt a weight lifted off his shoulders, ready to embrace whatever the future held. In the dimly lit forest, a chilling whisper echoes through the trees, sending shivers down the spine of anyone who dares to listen. As the wind picks up, the branches twist and scrape against each other, creating an unsettling symphony of sounds that heightens the fear. Suddenly, a piercing scream shatters the silence, echoing through the woods and sending a rush of adrenaline through every passerby. With each step she takes, the ground beneath her seems to pulse, as if the very earth is alive and aware of the lurking danger. Behind her, the faint sound of footsteps grows louder, a relentless pursuit that sends her heart racing with terror. As the sun began to rise, casting a golden hue over the city streets, a man in a crisp suit strolled confidently towards his workplace, unaware of the chaos about to unfold. Suddenly, the sharp sound of gunshots rang out, echoing through the air and jolting him from his calm demeanor. Instinctively, he ducked into a nearby alley, his heart racing as the distant wail of police sirens grew louder. Peering cautiously around the corner, he saw officers rushing towards the scene, guns drawn and voices commanding. As she walked along the quiet street, a sense of relief washed over her as she neared her home after a long day. Suddenly, the sound of screeching tires shattered the peace, followed by a violent impact that sent her sprawling onto the asphalt. The driver, under the influence of alcohol, laughed hysterically as he sped away, leaving chaos in his wake. Days passed before authorities pieced together the incident, tracking down the reckless driver through surveillance footage. When the police finally arrested him, the gravity of his actions began to sink in as he faced the reality of his choices. In a dimly lit basement, a heated confrontation escalated as she slapped the man, a moment that would change everything forever. Days later, the chilling aftermath unfolded as the man, fueled by anger, turned to violence with a knife. As the investigation intensified, the police began piecing together the events that led to her tragic fate. Finally, after days of relentless searching, the authorities managed to apprehend the suspect, bringing a sense of relief to the community. In the days that followed, the town grappled with the shocking reality of the crime, forcing many to confront their fears. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows on the pavement, a weary man hurried home after a grueling day at work. Suddenly, he sensed a chilling presence behind him and glanced over his shoulder to see a figure brandishing a knife. Panic surged through his veins as he sprinted down the street, desperate to escape the impending danger. With every ounce of strength, he pushed himself forward, but the sound of footsteps grew louder, closing in on him. In a moment of sheer terror, the man stumbled and fell to the ground, realizing his breath was now mingled with despair. As the moon cast an eerie glow over the abandoned house, shadows danced along the walls, hinting at the terror lurking within. Suddenly, a chilling laugh echoed through the halls, sending shivers down the spine of anyone brave enough to venture inside. With every step taken, the floorboards creaked ominously, as if warning of the malevolent presence watching from the shadows. Suddenly, the lights flickered ominously, revealing a figure with hollow eyes and a twisted grin that chilled the very air around them. Panic surged through their veins as the figure lunged forward, its haunting laugh reverberating in the confined space like a death knell. As the sun sets outside, casting a warm glow in the room, he dons his VR headset, fully immersing himself in the vibrant world of Roblox. His excitement builds as he navigates through fantastical realms, each more captivating than the last. With every move, he feels the thrill of the game as he interacts with other players, collaborating and competing in this digital playground. Laughter fills the room as he triumphantly completes a challenging obstacle course, high-fiving virtual teammates through the headset. As the gameplay intensifies, he finds himself immersed in a world where creativity knows no bounds, building elaborate structures alongside friends. As the lights flicker ominously, an unsettling silence fills the room, amplifying the sound of her hammering heart. Suddenly, a loud crash reverberates through the darkness, sending her heart racing even faster. She spins around, her breath quickening as she strains to make out what lurks behind her. With every beat of her heart, she feels the chilling presence drawing closer, every instinct urging her to flee. In a split second, she decides to confront whatever haunts her, steeling herself against the rising tide of panic. As John enters the small convenience store, he hears a loud commotion and instinctively knows something is wrong. His heart races as he spots a man brandishing a gun, and without thinking, he turns to flee toward the exit. 2 days later, the police announce that they have apprehended the shooter, bringing a sense of relief to the shaken community. John, still feeling the adrenaline from that fateful day, watches the news report unfold in his living room. The anchor details the events leading up to the arrest, showcasing the bravery of a witness who aided in identifying the suspect. Feeling a mix of fear and resolve, John reflects on the importance of community vigilance in the wake of such violence. He decides to attend the upcoming town hall meeting to discuss safety measures and support for those affected by the incident. As he enters the packed meeting room, he sees familiar faces, all sharing the same concern for their neighborhood's safety. As the door chimes softly, he steps inside the store, greeted by an unsettling sight that sends shivers down his spine. "Give me all the money or I'll shoot!" One of the robbers barks at the terrified cashier, his voice dripping with menace. In a state of panic, the cashier hands over the cash, his hands trembling as he complies with the robber's demands. Without hesitation, the robber pulls the trigger, the deafening sound echoing through the store as the cashier collapses. Heart racing, he bolts towards the exit, adrenaline pumping as he escapes the nightmare unfolding behind him. 3 days later, the police finally apprehend the two men determined to bring justice to the chaos they caused. The community breathes a sigh of relief, grateful for the swift action of law enforcement that has restored a sense of safety. As I set up my camper van in the tranquil woods, an unexpected sound pulled my attention to the nearby bushes. Eavesdropping, I froze in disbelief as I overheard two men conspiring in hushed tones about hiding a body. Overcome by fear, I let out a scream which immediately drew their attention and caused panic to surge through me. Without a second thought, I sprinted back to my camper van, heart racing as I fumbled to get inside. Once inside, I quickly started the engine, desperate to escape the horrifying situation. Arriving home, I hurriedly dialed 911, my hands trembling as I reported what I'd witnessed in the woods. The police acted swiftly, and within hours, they apprehended the two men based on my account. As the investigation unfolded, the men revealed the location of the body, confirming my worst fears. I was left in shock, realizing that I had stumbled upon a crime much darker than I could have ever imagined.